Chapter 15 of Wanderings in New South Wales, Batavia, Pedir Coast, Singapore and China, Volume 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Wanderings in New South Wales, Batavia, Pedir Coast, Singapore and China, Volume 1, by George Bennett. Chapter 15. On arriving at the plain, having the dogs with us, we started a kangaroo, the common species or Macropus major of Shaw, Kangarus labiatus, Jeff. The dogs pursued, but we stopped our horses, for a young kangaroo was lying tranquilly upon the grass, apparently unconscious of danger. The stock keeper, who accompanied me, alighted and secured it. To prevent escape, he tied the hind legs and then placed it upon the ground. The animal, however, contrived to make off, and we had some difficulty in recapturing it. Occupied with the young, we forgot the old one, and, as the dogs returned unsuccessful from the chase, it must have either outrun them or perished in the river which was near, for when closely pursued, these animals run towards a river, when one is near, and dash into it without hesitation. Should the water be deep, they instantly sink and perish. If shallow, they remain in it, keeping their pursuers at bay. The following anecdote was related to me respecting an animal of this species. A man went out to hunt kangaroos, and having started a large male, the pursued animal took refuge in a waterhole, sufficiently shallow to enable him to keep his head and forepaws above water, and here awaited the attack of the dog, which he soused fairly under water, when he came within reach. Pat, for the gentleman was from the sister kingdom, in a great rage at the threatened death of the dog, would have shot the kangaroo, but the gun missed fire. He then entered the waterhole to bait the brains of the beast out with the butt end of the gun. But the beast, not fancying to be thus treated, turned from the soused and now senseless dog to his more formidable adversary, and a struggle took place, in which the man was often thrust under water, and victory was promising much in favour of the kangaroo, when some of Pat's companions, fortunately coming to his assistance, attacked and killed the animal with clubs, and rescued him in almost an insensible condition. On recovery, he vowed not to hunt the big beasts again. This circumstance occurred some years since at Yas Plains on its first settlement, and when kangaroos were exceedingly abundant. It is now a rare occurrence to see one upon these plains. Happening to meet the hero of the above tale, I mean the man, not the kangaroo, I asked him how he felt when the beast hugged him. He replied, "Not very comfortable. He tumbled me about famously. They are mighty strong beasts, and don't seem to like being meddled with." Indeed, many persons when alone were afraid to face a large, old man kangaroo. A man recently arrived in the colony was sent after cattle. He returned in great terror, having, it appears, come suddenly on the ranges upon a kangaroo, as large, he said, as a horse. I asked him the colour of the animal. He replied that he did not recollect it. He only wished to get away from the beast, and running down the hill, was glad when he saw the animal, Waunt, following him. It is probable when he went down one part of the range, the animal, equally, if not more frightened, descended another. We passed over the ranges close to the stream of the Tumat, a rugged route, at some parts dangerous for horses, but the sure-footed animals carried us safely over places which would have astonished European horsemen. After leaving Blowrin Plain, we saw several kangaroos on the ranges. One was pursued, and after a short chase, overtaken and killed by the dogs. It was a female of the common species. The males of this species are called by the colonists foresters, the females flyers. The weight of the animal was 67 pounds, but many have been killed in the neighbouring ranges weighing 220 pounds. This specimen was conveyed to Bean, where I dissected it. We returned through a picturesque and fertile country, watered by the Tumat River. Many of the grey cockatoos with red crests, known by the native name of gang gang, were seen, and a beautiful white hawk was quietly perched upon the lofty dead trunk of a tree. The methods employed by the natives to capture kangaroos is either driving them into a river and killing them with spears, or on observing one approaching, by remaining perfectly quiet, they are mistaken by the animals for the charred trunk of a tree, and fearlessly advancing, are speared or killed by clubs. The tendons of the muscles about the tail of the kangaroo and those of the legs of the emu are converted into thread by the natives, who manufacture it from a neat net ornament called bolombine. One of these ornaments, made for me by a native female, of the tendons procured from the kangaroo, was executed in the following manner. The longest tendons selected from the tail were laid in an extended position to dry in the sun. They were afterwards divided into threads. When dry, they are capable of producing threads of considerable fineness. The cord intended for this ornament was made by 2 of these threads being rolled upon the thigh, additions being made until a sufficient length was obtained for the purpose required, usually extending to several yards. The netting process is executed in a manner somewhat similar to our own. The ornament, 1.5 inches in breadth, extends like a fillet around the front part of the head, being tied behind by strings of the same material. It is worn by males and females, and coloured with red ochre or pipe clay, according to the tastes of the wearer. The stock-keepers value the tendons for whiplashes, and say nothing can surpass them for durability. The part of the kangaroo most esteemed for eating is the loins, and the tail, which abounds in gelatin, furnishes an excellent and nourishing soup. The hind legs are coarse and usually fall to the share of the dogs. The natives, if they can be said to have a choice, give a preference to the head. The flesh of the full-grown animal may be compared to lean beef, and that of the young to veal. They are destitute of fat, if we except a little being occasionally seen between the muscles and integuments of the tail. The colonial dish, called a steamer, consists of the flesh of this animal dressed with slices of ham. The liver, when cooked, is crisp and dry, and is considered a substitute for bread, but I cannot coincide in this opinion. While visiting the Blowrin Flat, on hunting and other excursions, I frequently observed marks upon the grass where kangaroos had been herding. At one place the grass was beaten down, and a quantity of their fur strewed about the ground, an indication of their having recently been engaged in active warfare, leaving behind them like the Kilkenny cat, only some morsels of flew. Although we had many indications of these animals having visited the flat, we rarely saw them, except upon the ranges, particularly those spots where, the grass having recently been burnt, the young herbage was springing up. It is usual for kangaroos to frequent the highland during summer, seeking the more sheltered situations during winter. The females are not permitted to eat the flesh of the kangaroo, for if they did, the selfish males observe, our dogs would die. Nor are the women, it is said, allowed to eat the flesh of the bandicoot, called kudgeon, mandu, or gurun by the natives, until they have borne a child. The dying kangaroo would afford a subject worthy of the inimitable pencil of Landseer, as it lies prostrate on that ground, where, but a few minutes before, it fed and gambolled, unconscious of danger, moaning piteously under the unmerciful fangs of the hounds. Its eyes, dim with tears, seeming to upbraid the hunter for his cruelty. No one can behold the tragic scene without feeling pangs of regret, as the dogs worry the animal until the hunter dismounts, and passing his knife across the creature's throat, the crimson stream flows, and the fixed glassy eye indicates the termination of life. One day, while hunting kangaroos over the ranges, we started a female, reposed during the heat of the day under a tree. She was soon seized and destroyed by the dogs. A short distance further on the same range, we came upon a large male kangaroo, which, bounding away, we had a fine chase after him over stumps of trees, bushes, loose wood, and rocks, and found these impediments over a naturally irregular ground anything but safe. But the horse I rode was accustomed to such places, and, being sure-footed, he carried me safe over all difficulties in sufficient time to witness the death struggle. The kangaroo had been arrested in his progress by the hounds, on ascending a steep acclivity. When descending a hill, these animals make surprising leaps, and bound with great speed also upon level ground. But when ascending a hill, they are soon captured. The dogs had judiciously divided their attack upon the large and now furious animal, two having seized each a hind leg, and firmly kept it down, as if instinctively knowing the danger of its claws. Another firmly grasped the throat, the animal in return hugging him between his forepaws. The fourth made his attacks upon any part where an opportunity offered. Although the kangaroos have so pretty and innocent a physiognomy, yet when attacked, and defending themselves in the strife of death, they display a fierceness of disposition which would not be supposed from their gentle nature. The old man, as a full-grown male is called by the colonists, is really a formidable opponent when at bay, either for man or dogs. And although the engagement usually terminates against the unfortunate animal, yet the struggle is often violent and protracted, for its death is accomplished. The object of our chase stood erect, braving the unequal contest, which he had endeavoured to, but could not avoid. The victory was strongly disputed, and three of the hounds being young, I doubt whether it would have terminated in their favour, as they began to be exhausted, when the overseer, dismounting, overturned the animal, and keeping its hind legs down with his utmost strength, the dogs attacked the throat, and its existence was soon terminated. The weight of this animal was 160 pounds. On the inner side of each knee joint I observed a collection of several hundreds of worms, long, thin, and of a white colour, enclosed in a cyst of cellular membrane, through which they could be seen. It was situated external to the knee joint. I dissected a cyst as perfectly as possible, and placed them in spirits, at the same time regretting that I had no means of preserving the joint with the cyst attached entire. Similar worms are said to exist in the stomach and intestines of the animal. These cysts, I understand, are not uncommon. Some persons have asserted that they have never killed a kangaroo without them, whilst others declare they are more common in males than in females, and are found in 2 kangaroos out of 3. When examining the body of the kangaroo last killed, the attack of mosquitoes, horseflies, and others nearly obliged us to abandon our game, for portions of the animal were almost immediately covered with white maggots. The blowflies in this country are viviparous, and on the conclusion of my investigations, we were glad to take our departure and leave the carcass to the myriads of tormenting insects that were fast increasing from all directions. I observed the molar teeth of the 2 female kangaroos had a layer of metallic substance encrusting them, and could readily be knocked off. It resembles the golden teeth often observed in sheep and other herbaceous animals. The Aborigines have a custom of preserving human fat. I observed it among the Yaz, Murrumbidgee, and other tribes. They show it with reluctance to Europeans. I could not ascertain the motive with certainty. Some said it was as a charm, others that it was used in the cure of diseases. That it is applied in the latter purpose I believe, from having seen it smeared over or near the place at which a patient complained of pain, or had received injury. The fat is not taken from particular individuals, that from any human body being considered equally efficacious. The Aborigines, when young, have the foot arched, becoming flattened as they advance in years. And the children, as among all savage, and perhaps even civilized, races, when able to provide for themselves, are careless of parental regard or protection. It is surprising with what facility the natives ascend, in pursuit of game, trees of large circumference, without a branch to aid them except near the summit, merely by making small notches with their tomahawks upon the trunk, in which the feet are placed. I even saw a female ascend a lofty tree for the purpose of taking a nest of the juliong, or rose hill parrot, from the hollow branch or spout of the tree. She brought down in safety 5 full-fledged young ones. The natives eat them, as they do all living things. The eggs of this species of parrot are of a light bluish colour, with small, pale, brown spots. The young of all the parrot tribe were now abundant. One evening a sound met my ears, resembling the harmonious voice of swine at a distance, but it appeared the noise proceeded from a batch of young wagaras, or cockatoos, in an adjoining tree, which were either disturbed by flying squirrels and opossums, or, as a black feller observed, "Poe's got no supper, merry hungry." The emu, or New Holland cassowary, Cassiarius novae hollandiae lath, were abundant about this part of the colony, more particularly at a place not far distant called Naganbilly. It is, however, to be regretted that the birds are becoming rarer as settlements advance, as they could be readily domesticated. The same remark applies also to the kangaroo and other animals, against whom a war of extermination seems to have been declared. The emu is principally valued for its oil. The natives in this part of the colony call them gorin and berabine. The skin of a full-grown bird produces 6 or 7 quarts of oil, clear, and of a beautiful bright yellow colour. The method of extracting or trying the oil is to pluck the feathers, cut the skin into pieces, and boil it. But the Aborigines prefer the flesh with skin upon it, regarding it, as the Eskimo do the flesh of whales and seals, as a highly luscious treat. The oil is excellent for burning. It produces no disagreeable smell. It is also considered a good liniment for sprains or bruises in horses and cattle, either alone or when stronger stimulating properties are required, mixed with turpentine. The emu crops herbage like the cows or horse and possesses great keenness of vision. The flesh is eaten by Europeans and preferred by some to the kangaroo. The rump part is considered as delicate as fowl, the legs coarse like beef, but still tender. The fibula bone of the leg is used as an ornament by the natives. The best time to hunt these birds is at an early hour in the morning. They are swift of foot, but when once the dogs get up to them, they are speedily overthrown and dispatched. The formation of their nest is simple. They usually select a situation in a scrub upon the hills, where a space is scraped similar to those formed by brooding hens. Sticks and leaves, which alone form the nest, are left round the cleared place. Here the eggs are deposited without regard to regularity, the number varying from 9 to 13, and it is a curious circumstance that there is always an odd number, some nests having been discovered with 9, others with 11, and others again with 13. It is now ascertained beyond doubt that the eggs are hatched by incubation. They are of a large size and of a beautiful bluish-green colour. Among other extraordinary animals furnished to the naturalists in this interesting country is the echidna, or native porcupine, the Nicobejan and Janocumbine of the natives. It inhabits mountain ranges, burrowing with extraordinary facility, and at this season, December, produces its young. It forms a link between Hystrix and Myrmecophaga, differing but little in external characters from the genera Manis and Myrmecophaga. A new genus has therefore formed for it, Echidna, in the order Edentata, tribe Monotrema. It was named Myrmecophaga aculeata by Shaw, at the same time that he considered the external character sufficiently distinct to place it in a new genus. He thus correctly described the animal. Quote, "The whole upper parts of the body and tail are thickly coated with strong and sharp spines. The snout is long and tubular, having only a small rictus or opening at the tip, from whence it protruded a long lumbriciform tongue, as in other anteaters. The nostrils are small and seated at the extremity of the snout. The eyes are small and black, with a pale blue iris. It burrows with great strength and celerity underground when disturbed. It will even burrow under a pretty strong pavement, removing the stones with its claws, or under the bottom of a wall. During these exertions, its body is stretched or lengthened to an uncommon degree, and appears very different from the short or plump aspect which it bears in its undisturbed state." Ends quote. At Goulburn Plains, The natives brought me a young living specimen of this animal, which they had just caught upon the ranges. They called it Janacombine, and fed it upon ants and ants' eggs. It was often taken to an ant hill to provide itself with food. From being so young, it had an unsteady walk and was covered with short, sharp spines projecting above the fur. On expressing a fear to the natives of not being able to keep it alive, they replied that it would not now die, as it had prickles on. Meaning, I suppose, that it could feed and provide for itself, not requiring the fostering care of its parents. On asking whether it was a male or female, they examined the hind feet for the spurs, and, seeing them, declared it to be a male. It sleeps during the day, running about and feeding at night. Its movements are tardy, the principal exertions being made when burrowing. When touched upon the undersurface and undercovered parts of its body, or when attacked by dogs, it rolls, like the hedgehog, into a spherical form, the prickly coat forming a good defence against the canine race, who have a decided aversion to have their noses pricked. When attacked, it has been known to burrow to a great depth in a surprising short period of time. I do not think that either this animal, from its coat not bearing caresses, or the large lizard, called guana, from its repulsive form, will ever be admitted into the nursery of favourite animals by the ladies of the colony. The echidna is eaten by the natives, who declare it to be kobong budgery, very good, and, like pig, very fat. Europeans who have eaten of them confirm this opinion, and observe that they taste similar to a sucking pig. This animal, when scratching, or rather cleaning itself, uses only the hind claws, lying in different positions so as to enable it to reach the part of the body to be operated upon. The animal is pentadactyl, the first 2 claws of the hind feet being long, the first the longest, that of the great toe the shortest. They seem to have the power of erecting their spines, and, rolling themselves into a spherical form, making an excellent defence against many of their enemies. I consider there are 2 species of this genus existing. First, E. hystrix desum, or spiny echidna, which is found on the mountain ranges in the colony of New South Wales, and the second, E. setosa desum, or bristly echidna, which is found more common in Van Diemen's Land. The first species attains a large size. It is stated in our works of natural history as being the size of a hedgehog. My young specimen was fully that. At Newington, the residence of John Blaxland, Esquire, I had an opportunity of seeing a specimen full 14 inches long, and of proportionate circumference. It fed upon milk and eggs, the eggs boiled hard and chopped up small, with rice. Its motion was heavy and slow. It was of a perfectly harmless disposition. When disturbed from its place of retreat, it would feed during the day, but was difficult to remove from the cask in which it was placed on account of its firmly fixing itself at the bottom. It feeds by thrusting out the tongue, to which organ the food is attached, and then withdrawing it. Mine moved about, and drank milk at night, taking little other food. After keeping it for nearly 7 months, I found it one morning dead. There is an affection of the eye, which much prevails at this season of the year in the interior colony, attacking both European settlers and natives, and is called by the colonists the Blight. It occurs only during the summer season. The attack is sudden, no doubt proceeding from the bite of a gnat or some other insect. I had an opportunity of witnessing a case of this malady, which occurred in a native. The integuments surrounding the orbit were puffed up so much as totally to close the eye, which was found much inflamed as an acute ophthalmia and attended with symptoms in some degree similar, with severe itching and pricking pain, as if sand had been lodged in it, with a profuse flow of tears. This disease seldom continues for more than 3 days, even if no remedy be applied. A spirit lotion has been found the most beneficial application. Last summer, every individual at one of the farms was attacked by it in both eyes, occasioning temporary blindness, and much inconvenience was experienced from all being attacked at the same period. On the 14th of December, I left the Tumat country on my return to Yaz. Day had just dawned when I commenced my journey. The sky was clear and serene. The rising sun gilded the summits of the picturesque mountains. The sparkling dew was not yet dispelled, and all nature looked refreshed. The atmosphere was cool and agreeable, and the birds chanted, as if to salute the rising orb with their early melody. The dark foliage of the swamp oaks and a brighter vegetation would indicate the proximity of the river, whose murmuring stream was occasionally heard, although its waters were not seen. But as the day advanced, it became more sultry. Vegetation drooped with excessive heat. The feathered songsters ceased their carolling, and only a few herons, magpies, carrow of the Aborigines, and crows were visible. I arrived at Darbilara late in the afternoon. The banks of the Murrumbidgee were beautifully picturesque. How delightful it is in this country, so destitute of large streams, to sit under the overshadowing branches of the eucalypti near the river, watching the flights of wild fowl engaged in catching the fish with which this river abounds, or seeing the young amphibious blacks amusing themselves by throwing stones into the deep part of the stream and diving in order to catch them before they reach the bottom. In this amusement they displayed much activity, and in nearly every instance succeeded in regaining the stone before it reached the bottom. The competition among them to catch it was highly amusing. There were a number of the Aborigines about this farm, who made themselves occasionally useful by grinding wheat and other occupations. But no dependence can be placed upon their industry, for they work when they please, and remain idle when they like, the latter being of most frequent occurrence. But they are encouraged for their valuable assistance in finding strayed cattle, as they track the beasts with an accuracy seldom or never attained by a European. The river's banks abounded in trees of enormous size, and were profusely embellished with elegant flowers. I saw a species of the eucalyptus, called the watergum, full 100 feet in elevation, and 6 or 7 feet in diameter. I also observed a swamp oak, growing from the trunk of one of these trees, having quite a parasitical character, the former being about 12 feet high, and the latter full 40, both in a flourishing condition. An animal, called water rat by the colonists, and bidunong by the Aborigines, burrowed in the banks, but I was not able to procure a specimen. There are also 2 species of the kangaroo rat found about this part of the colony, one called canamung, and the second, a larger species, called talbung by the blacks. About the river's banks, an elegant species of flycatcher, Birin beru, of the natives, was numerous, burrowing for some distance in the sand, where it lays its eggs and produces young. It is about the size of a lark, of beautiful and varied plumage, migrating from this part of the country in the winter and returning in the summer to build about its old haunts. I examined several of the burrows, which were situated on a sandy flat near the river. The entrance was 2.5 inches at its broadest diameter, continuing of a breadth seldom exceeding 3 inches to the length of 3 feet generally, although some were even longer, terminating in a space from 6 to 8 inches broad, where the legs arrayed. No nest was constructed, and on examining the first burrow, I found 4 young ones reposing upon the bare sand. I covered the burrow as well as possible, leaving the young ones to a mother's care, who soon returned to her progeny. Other burrows contained from 4 to 5 white, nearly round eggs. The length of these birds was 10 inches from the beak to the 2 projecting tail feathers, which last were usually 1.5 inches beyond the others. The irides were of a beautiful bright red colour. There are several species of birds seen here during the summer season, migrating in the winter, and others returning in the winter and taking their departure in the summer. Observations upon the migration of birds in this colony would be interesting, as the accounts are often contradictory. The elegant satin bird, Tilinorincus of Temink, it is said, leaves the Murrumbidgee country during summer, returning in autumn. It is also mentioned that the Aborigines never kill this bird. Cattle and sheep stations now extend for some distance down the Murrumbidgee, probably as much as 50 miles. The following is a list of them, commencing from below Mr. Warby's farm at Darbelara. At a distance of 2 miles from Darbelara, proceeding down the stream, is the first station, Mingi, belonging to Mr. Warby Sr. 2 miles beyond, second station, Gundagajia, belonging to Mr. Hutchinson. 5 miles beyond, third station, Willapluma, belonging to Mr. Stocky. 4 miles beyond, fourth station, Kimo, belonging to Mr. Guys. 3 miles beyond, fifth station, Wajego, belonging to Mrs. Jenkins. 4 miles beyond, sixth station, Nangas, belonging to Mr. J. M. Arthur. 8 miles beyond, seventh station, Jabtray, belonging to Mr. Ellis. 2 miles beyond, eighth station, Wondubajare, belonging to Mr. Thorne. 10 miles beyond, ninth station, Kubandia, belonging to Mr. Thompson. 10 miles beyond, 10th station, Billing, belonging to Mr. H. M. Arthur. The natives' names of that part of the country, where the stations are situated, have been retained. The distance in miles is nominal. The family at Darbelara are generally industriously employed in making butter and cheese, which is taken to Sydney for sale. They possess numerous herds of cattle, and the luxuriant pasturage about the farm fattens and enables the milch cows to furnish abundance of milk. From the industry displayed by this family, They deserved to realise an independence from their exertions. Formerly, flocks of sheep were kept about the farm, but from great losses being sustained among them, from a morbid propensity of destroying their progeny, they were given up, and more attention paid to this as a dairy farm, for which purpose no land could be better selected. End of chapter 15.